The views and opinions expressed on any program are those of the producers and/or the persons appearing on the program and do not necessarily reflect the views and opinions of FRC Media, Bristol Community College, or the City of Fall River.
Well, hello. Welcome to Spindle City Straight Talk. I'm Chip. And you're a little low on the audio.
Hey, there you go.
There we go. Live TV.
Live TV, yeah. We're not on Facebook today because we have a problem with the Facebook contraption. So our Facebook viewers will have to watch us a little later. Yeah. I tried logging in 3 times and it just won't take. So,
well,
that's the problem with the internet.
But
we do have a live feed on YouTube.
Such is life on Facebook, but
yeah.
But you do have our live feed
on YouTube, yes.
On YouTube, so welcome to those people who are. Let me close that door. I got all kinds of people wandering around.
Well, you don't have to close the door. They can see shows going on. They should be all set.
All right. Well. I guess I heard on the way in that there was another accident on 24 today.
Yeah, it's been bad on Route 24 the past week. I mean, there's been, what, 3 or 4 deaths?
Yeah, well, it's always been a bad road, but now there's so much more traffic on it. I remember many moons ago, before they cut 495 in up around Bridgewater, that once you got to Brockton, you got to the split, the traffic was virtually really light. Now when you come back from Boston, it's bad all the way from Boston almost until you hit Taunton.
Yeah.
And even then, after Taunton to Fall River, it's still sometimes pretty heavy. I mean, it's just the traffic is relentless, and a lot of these accidents are happening in the evening and in the early morning, so people are, they're probably driving a little fast, going to work, and now, of course, the weather's changing. We can get black ice. We can get slick roads. I know it rained a little bit this morning. We could have had some hydroplaning and stuff. But another accident, and, it's always been a pretty dangerous stretch, especially that area. When you get around the Sonnet, there's like a depression in the highway.
Yep.
And that space really ices up, gets black ice, even when the rest of the road isn't. It's one of the first places to get black ice. So,
but there's also been a few deaths on Route 24 and 140 that were drinking related.
Yeah.
People still haven't learned. People still haven't learned. You don't drink and drive.
Well, yeah.
And some of these, and I don't know it for a fact, but I can put money on it that some of these accidents are related to distracted driving. People on their cell phones answering text messages, watching a video, whatever the case may be.
Yeah.
And right now, the State House has a bill pending, which they're supposed to sign off sometime this week for the governor to sign by Wednesday, to put in a distracted driving bill that's going to restrict using your cell phone while in the vehicle, unless it's hands-free. Yeah. Which I think it's about time. Well, every other state around us has that.
It's way overdue.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Every other state around us has it. We're the only ones that don't.
But, sometimes it's distracted driving in many cases. Impaired driving, be it drugs now, especially with all the pot shops.
Exactly.
And alcohol. And it's also bad driving. I remember when I was still on the job, I was driving up to headquarters, which is the airport road now, the new headquarters. And it was in the winter, and I remember we began to take the exit to go to the right to get on the off-ramp. And it was a good thing I happened to glance over, and it was a car in the woods. And nobody would have, it was pretty deep in the woods. So, of course, we stopped the vehicle, turned on the lights, and we went in, and there was a woman in the car. She had tried to take the turn too quickly, went off the ramp and into the woods. So, I mean, that stretch is bad. And if you don't drive, look, it's hard enough and difficult enough when you're not paying attention. You got a weapon there. That's a projectile you're driving, and it's heavy. It weighs a couple tons, but no matter how many times you say it, and this is where they know what the cure is.
Right.
Stringent punishments for these things. And again, I just looked at the news last night. They were talking about the 23-year-old who killed somebody in his car, was ejected.
Yep.
No seatbelt, obviously, if they're ejected. And they found out he was drunk. So he's facing a DUI with death resulting. It just never ends.
No.
And how many times have we seen these accidents where they kill people and you find out it's their 4th, 5th, 6th, some of them have got 10 or 11 DUIs.
And that's because the state legislature doesn't want to cramp down on drunk driving, because it might be them.
It might be one of them or one of their friends or family. And it's like, but if you go to the countries where you get like 10 years for drunken driving, the first
doesn't
offense,
happen too often.
First offense, you lose your license for 10 years. Then if you get another drunken driving charge, you get 10 years in jail. Some of them, I think there was one country when they went over that a while back, they had a little documentary on that stuff. And I think one of the countries, although I'm not saying I favor that, I think it's the punishment should suit the crime. But I guess if you get caught drunk and driving, there was one country that had the death penalty. So
I guess that would stop you from drinking and driving.
Obviously, it's going to stop that individual from ever driving drunk again. But I mean, I'm not sure if that's even for me, that's a little over the top. So, but hey, it is what it is. And again, traffic accidents on 24. So, but it is very poorly lit.
Not only that, that
it is
intersection,
extremely poorly lit.
that intersection where it merges all together, where it comes in from 79
Yep.
and from 24 and from Highland Avenue, from Robeson Street there, you've got 3 roads coming together, and everybody wants to get off at Airport Road. So they all try to cross over, and nobody can see anyone on their left side, because you really can't see them coming unless you're looking across. And when you see them flying past you, go, okay, they passed me, I don't got a problem. But then you got this other guy coming from off Robeson Street, and he can almost clip to the side of your car off. I mean, it was just poorly designed.
No, yeah, it is very poorly designed, because you got that merge between 79 and the ones coming from Fall River, obviously from Highland Avenue and other
Right.
places like that. So that merge, but that merge is very close to that off-ramp.
Exactly.
So when you get people coming from Somerset down 79 that want to get off, and there's fairly heavy traffic, work traffic, what they do is they cut you off.
Right.
Because they have to. And other people that are trying to go and continue on, it is a very poorly, very, very poorly designed. There should be a lot more distance from the area. But I guess that's the architects that we have in this area of the country, because if you look at Thurbers Avenue curve, after you come out of the curve and you got the 195, you got an on-ramp coming up from Providence.
Yep.
Just before the off-ramp.
Right.
And there's 4 lanes of traffic. So you have people coming from the outside 4th lane trying to get it across 4 lanes to take the off-ramp to 195, and people trying to go to 95, not have to stay in the right-hand lanes and end up on 195. It's a mess. So I guess the moral of that story is you really have to pay attention when you're driving. You can't be on your cell phone. You can't be, you shouldn't be impaired when you're driving.
Shouldn't be texting.
No matter how much we say it, the only way we'll ever get it done is when they start really hammering these people.
Well, and that's been the problem. They say they can't enforce texting and driving. I have pulled up along, I don't know how many cars where I've seen them texting while they're at the light or wherever they may be. And I've seen it happen where a police cruiser is on the side of him. He couldn't see that happening and pull him over and give him a ticket?
Well, I don't know. I don't, unless things have changed, and it's very possible. When I got my license, and maybe when you did, and we had to get our chariot license because they hadn't invented cars yet. But all seriousness,
I really, made my chariot the best. I put the spikes on the sides because I wanted to rip off those wheels.
Ben Hur, I know.
I wanted to rip off those wheels.
Well, when I went for my driver's license, they told, I remember we had to study for the test.
Yeah.
And one of the things that the registry, when they gave you the test, was that it was mandatory that you were in control of your vehicle at all times.
At all times.
So if you're texting, you're not in control of your vehicle.
That's right.
Because you're not paying attention to the road. I mean, I took a guy for his driving test one time, a friend of mine, and mother couldn't take him. I took him, and the registry guy failed him because he did the 3-point turn.
Yep.
And when he began the 3-point turn, and he made the first point, he was going to go back. When he began to back up, he looked in his rear view, in his side mirror, didn't look in his rear view mirror, and the registry man yelled, "Stop!" And the kid went, "Oh, what?" Because that's it, you failed.
Yeah.
And I had to drive back to the registry because he failed him because he wasn't paying attention to what was behind him. He said you could have run somebody over. But now the way they drive, I think they give them out like a bubble gum machine in the registry. You just go in there, pay your dues, stick your quarter in there, and you pull your license out because I see the way they drive. But look, you're supposed to be in control of your vehicle at all times.
You know, I used to teach driver's ed.
Oh, that's right. You did. Yeah, that's right.
And I'll tell you, some of the inspectors, it seems like, whatever, you pass. Other inspectors, there's one. It's a woman. She's very tough. And I've got to say, she would flunk you if you went over the stop line. If you hit that stop line, you went a little over it, because everyone in Fall River does that. They go over the stop line into the crosswalk.
And into the crosswalk.
And into the
that's
crosswalk, right. She would fail you. Right there, boom, you failed. If you were doing your 3-point turn and you touched the curb, you failed. I mean, she was tough. People hated getting her, but you know what? I think that incentivized those people to do it right the first time. But again,
yeah, and you've just incentivized the city if they really want to make money because they love to give out tickets. All they have to do is stay at the bottom of Ellsbury Street and tag everybody that goes over that line into the crosswalk.
That's
because
right.
Every time I leave here, there's always somebody in that halfway block in the crosswalk. But hey, it is what it is. But I guess this newsworthy. It's pretty quiet. Just rumors bouncing all over the place. So
well, there is one thing that's not a rumor. Tomorrow in the city council meeting, the tax factor.
Well, that's not a rumor.
That's definitely not a rumor. And I said in the weekend flush to get out, send letters to the city councilors, talk to them, go to citizens input, and tell them, give us 1.75 for once. Businesses are thriving. They're flourishing. They're making money.
According
and half
to
of
them.
Yeah, and half of them aren't even paying taxes. So guess what? Let them pay some more property taxes. It's 1.75. It's time for the residents and the citizens of Fall River, the taxpayers, to get a break.
Yeah, but well, hopefully.
And the other thing is the city council needs to stop letting people who don't live in this city talk. They give them time in citizens input. That's for citizens. That's not for somebody who runs the Chamber of Commerce, but he comes from Attleboro or Taunton or Somerset or Swansea. How many times that happened? We only had the council once deny him
as far as I'm concerned, that article by the Chambers of Commerce, they forfeited their right ever to speak in front of our city council again. Unless you're a taxpayer in this city, I don't care if you're hired to try to lobby for them. You showed that everything you say is suspect.
That's right.
Because when you try to sell Fall River as a low-crime area and with a beautiful waterfront, when we know it's not beautiful, it needs a lot of work, you forfeited your right because you're all full of crap, and we know it. And as you said, businesses get TIFs. Now they want a lower tax factor, and the taxpayer takes it on the chin every single time. You got to make up the money that goes into the tax base for that TIF. We got to make it up. And then when they give them a tax factor, they shift it over to us. And let's see. And this is going to be very interesting because you got a few city councilors who are waving goodbye. So are they gonna stand up for the taxpayer?
It's a shame that this tax factor vote doesn't come before the election. Because
Yeah.
you want to make a bet, we would do better, but it's after the election now. So
Absolutely, yeah. But you know what I dislike is you go up there, citizens input. They give you 3 minutes and they cut you off, and nobody really pays attention to what they say. But then they let the Chamber of Commerce guy get up there and talk for 15 or 20 minutes.
Exactly.
And you get 2.5 minutes after you give your address. You get 2.5 minutes, and then no matter what you say. Tax factors don't help businesses, reducing that tax factor. Because if you look at every thriving community, they have a 175 tax.
Exactly.
You know why? Because the people in them communities have money, and those communities have money. Newton has got 2,000 less people than we do. They have 2,000 less people, and they have 10,000 more businesses. 10,000. With a 175 tax factor. Now, don't you think those 10,000 businesses would run to Fall River if the tax factor mattered for them?
You would hope so.
They would, because they're business people.
Right.
You know, our businesses don't go running to China and Bangladesh.
Although sometimes it seems they want to.
Yeah, because they're looking to make as much profit as possible. They're not leaving those places. The reason they stay in those places is those places, the taxpayers have money to spend money and buy things.
That's right.
And our city council continues, when they vote for a tax factor lower than that, continue to try to say, oh, we've got to try to help businesses. You help businesses by giving them customers. You take all the money away from their customers, and the tax factor is irrelevant, as it's proven by statistics. Statistically, the richer communities don't have to worry about it. Those businesses are happy to pay 175.
Right.
And most of the people that are up there whining about the tax factor don't live in the city.
And and the other thing is, just look at what's also going on at tomorrow's meeting. They're transferring money from their surplus accounts in the water department and sewer department into their active accounts. Didn't they budget it properly? I know they're robbing me blind on water and sewer rates. So why aren't they able to generate enough money to keep their department going when they're gouging us? Why? Because the water rate's coming up again pretty soon, and they're going to say, well, look, we had to move $2 million into the sewer account and $1 million into the water account, and we're not getting enough money.
That rate increase will come after the budget, most likely.
Right.
But you answered your own question, which made that a rhetorical question because
Exactly.
you knew the answer. The answer is that they don't budget properly.
Exactly.
And the solution to that problem is that if a department head doesn't budget properly, he has to be held accountable.
Well, the department head who budgeted for this budget is no longer with the city.
But he never budgeted
But
properly.
he never budgeted properly.
And he always asked for something after the fact. And was he ever held accountable by a
Never.
council? Never. See, that's the problem. Let's not, we're looking at the symptom. But the solution is go back in time. When a budget was submitted by a department, if they wanted more money, they would have to go back in and justify why they needed it, and there had to be a reason that wasn't foreseeable. It had to be an emergency. When Frank Manning and DCM went in front for more money, he'd say, well, we budgeted X amount of dollars, and this is the average for the snow. And we had a horrible winter, and we ran out of money. Well, okay, it's nature, Mother Nature. But the reality is, if you look at the Newton budget, every single thing is delineated in that budget, and everything that they said they were going to do the previous year that wasn't done, with the new budget goes in, there is a synopsis of why it wasn't accomplished.
Right.
So they're held accountable. So every time they want money, they get called in and say, you're making 6 figures. You can't create a budget? Even though most of you have administrative assistants that
That
send
actually
in
do the
budgets.
work.
That really does all the work, the administrative assistant. But see, that's, again, we get back to the two bottom lines on our first show. Follow the money, and then the root of all evil in this city. Lack of accountability by everybody who gets a big salary. And who is at fault?
We are.
Not the crime wave that we call our executive branch. Realistically, who's to blame? I mean, we're ultimately to blame because we vote these people in.
Right.
But but the fact is, it's the city council. Who are the Ways and Means Committee of this city? The city council. They appropriate the money. They're the ones who authorize the spending. They are the ones who everything that happens comes across, and they all whine and complain, and they talk a lot, yet all of these things get approved ultimately, or 98% of them get approved, and no department head has ever been called up there and got skewered like they used to in the old days. In the old days, if you were a department head and you weren't running your department, you got called in and you got hammered to the wall. And that's the way it should be. And I remember Steve Walsh. You remember Steve Walsh?
Yeah, that's a name.
City councilor?
Yep, that's a name.
Arguably the best city councilor, in my opinion, we ever had. The most well-prepared councilor we ever had. But not a good politician. He served a few terms. But I remember vividly him grilling people. And I remember one time we went in to complain about manpower and stuff, and he did his homework, and he eviscerated the chief. He eviscerated him. But he did his homework, and he held people accountable. And that's the thing. All we ever do is hire more people. We get a city administrator that can't do the job. We create a CFO position. Like we said on the last show, we got a treasurer, an auditor, a CFO. Now we're going to have a CFOO. Oh my!
No, that's what we're going to be saying.
How many more people can we pay to do the same job? How much duplication do we need? You know, it's kind of like that old joke. How many? You can't even say it anymore because you'd have to really say it, ethnicity.
Right.
Or how many carpenters does it take to screw in a light bulb? You know, and the reality is how many people do we have to see overseeing a simple budget? Let's make this clear. This is not a multinational corporation, a multinational bank that has hundreds of thousands of employees and who has investments and they have to buy materials and hard goods and all kinds of other things. It's a complicated mishmash of things. No, this is a city, a nonprofit supposedly. And all we do is add and subtract. Money in, you add that to the budget. What you pay out, you subtract from the budget. You have department heads to make a budget for every department. But yet we always have missing money. We can't account for anything. And we have treasurers and auditors and school department treasurers and school department this. And every department's got their own, they've got their own administrative assistants. But we need a city administrator, a CFO, now a chief financial officer. We need deans of students. We need all these jobs because government is the bastion of incompetency. Do we really need all these people to track it? When we sued the city in '91, when they came up and said that we were out of money in our trust fund, I'm not an auditor by any means, not even close. But I took a hand calculator looked at the Blue Cross bills, totaled them up, found out how much we paid into the plan, and found out we had overpaid, and there was more money. And we found over $1 million had been misappropriated of our money. And I did that with a hand calculator and a little bit of sweat equity. It's not rocket science, people. We got X amount of money, and these are our bills. We need all these tiers and tiers and tiers of employees to waste your taxpayer dollar, and then we got a city council that basically approves every kind of expenditures known to man. And let me look into my crystal ball. You know, in another year or two, you know, or maybe before that, we'll be looking into renovating parking garages, and we won't get the money because the former city administrator couldn't get numbers together. But is anybody ever held accountable? No. All we ever do is give away, they give away your money. All they do is give away your money. They give it in tiffs. They screw you on the tax factor. Every which way but loose. Didn't Clint Eastwood make a movie called that, Every Which Way But Loose?
Yes.
Well, that's what they do. Every which way but loose, they figure how to screw the taxpayer. So we got some new councilors in here. So let's hold them all feet to the fire. We've got some retreads who have still not held anybody accountable, so let's focus on their performance this time around, and maybe we can get some more new people in. And oh, speaking of that, just segue into something you and I were discussing. You want to talk a little bit about the signs?
Yes.
The political signs,
The political
CJ?
signs, they're still up. I mean, I've been finding Kathy Ann Rivera signs, Trot Lee signs. Hey, people, guess what? If the building inspector wants to come around and he wants to enforce the city ordinance, you're the one that gets the fine. Take that sign down. If they didn't come back and pick it up, take it down. I can tell you Michelle Dion went out and picked those signs up the next day after the election. She was out picking them up, and she was telling people, if I forgot your house, you still have a sign, please call me. I'll come by and pick it up. That's what you're supposed to do. And the city council, a few meetings back, wanted to introduce an ordinance that cut the amount of time the signs can be out from 21 to 14 days, which I think is great. Go let them go up for 14 days and take them down within 1 week. It'll be 21 days total.
Well, kudos to Michelle Dion for getting her signs down in an expeditious way, but I'm concerned that some of those signs won't come down for a very long time, because we discussed it on this show that Jazel, and then when he suspended his campaign, virtually all those sign locations mysteriously had Kathy Ann Rivera signs up, and a lot of those properties are in arrears with their taxes or derelict properties.
Right.
Because they could go down to the assessor's office and look around at who's, what properties are. They're not going to complain about you putting a sign up if they already owe taxes. So a lot of those properties were identified as sign locations, and they didn't get permission. I can guarantee you they didn't get permission to put those signs up, because some of those places are derelict.
Right.
But they got elected. Take your signs down, people. Take your signs down.
Somebody's got to.
And because remember, what is the thing? Who gets fined?
The taxpayer, the property owner.
The property owner. So if they don't take your signs down and somebody gets a brainstorm to start sending out the building inspector, you're going to get fined.
And that's, and that's going to be, you put it up there to support your candidate, and then all of a sudden, your candidate's going to cost you money. I don't know if it's $100 or $250. I can't remember what the fine is on that.
Well, since the candidate puts up the sign, and maybe we should create some kind of system where they have an authorization paper to put the sign up from the property owner, and part of that is a contract for them to take the signs down. Otherwise, they get fined.
Yeah, exactly. That's the way it should have been. But is a politician ever going to find themselves?
Never.
Never. Hey, have a great day, everyone. Watch out with the weather. We'll see you on Wednesday.